Now to a story that could be national news on many nights in America, but is often crowded out by Washington controversies and, of course, politics. Take a look at this controversial video of Phoenix police using aggressive tactics. This was on a family with small children who posed no apparent physical threat. The officers drawing their guns and telling the parents they were going to get shot. The police interaction began after a daughter walked out of the store with a doll, and the footage has sparked protests, a lawsuit by the family, and an internal investigation, with the Phoenix police chief conceding that what you're about to see in this program is, quote, disturbing. I'm going to play this tape for about a minute so you can see the context of this escalating interaction.
You're gonna get shot! Get your hands off me! Get out the fucking car! You are gonna get out the fucking car right now! Hands up!
I can't put my hands up. I'm fucking big, man. I can't. I'm pregnant. It's overdoing shit. It's overdoing it.
Break your feet! When I tell you to do something, you do it!
I'm sorry, I'm just on the side.
You're not complying with me!
Yes, I am.
When I tell you to do something, you do it!
I am.
When I tell you
I can't put my hands up. I got baby. Nigga, I'm so fucking
put your hands
Hey, hey! Whoa, sir, come down! What's going on here?
Oh, live here. Attacking a lady, man? Really?
Put your child down!
She gotta walk. She's a baby.
And here's the family speaking out last night.
No kids should see that. No should see some terror like that. She has not been the same. Just make me sick to my stomach. I have nightmares of barrels pointed at my face, and I just think how I couldn't save my daughter. That's wrong. And all over what?
These are not isolated incidents. They just tend to get more political or media reaction when they happen to be videotaped. Consider other recent events. An off-duty officer shot and killed an unarmed man with disabilities at a Costco last week in California. The same week that Indiana police shot and killed an African-American man. There's a dispute over whether or not he had a knife. Now, officers in that Indiana town wear body cameras, but they say that the camera wasn't recording during that incident, so we don't have video of it. And the wider numbers show excessive force is not evenly distributed in America. It's more likely to be used by police against the poor, minorities, and the mentally challenged. All of this is rooted in a much deeper debate about America's criminal justice system. Is it working just fine the way it is, the way you just saw, or does it need reform? Professor Michael Eric Dyson will give me his answer in this segment. Before I turn the floor over, though, I do want to know how all of this adds up, because the videos and the activism and the pressure, there are signs it's working. Many big cities have ousted DAs and mayors over these very issues. And Donald Trump has actually concluded that enough Americans think the criminal justice system is so flawed, he's trying to position himself as being for bipartisan reform. In fact, he just hosted reformers and Kim Kardashian for an event a few days before launching his re-election campaign.
My whole journey with criminal justice reform started about a year ago when I came to see the president after speaking to Ivanka and Jared, who really fought for me to get here. Everyone wants the community to be safe, and the more opportunity we have and that they have and the support that we help give them, the safer everyone will be.
I signed into law groundbreaking and historic reform to our criminal justice system, the First Step Act. We had tremendous conservative support and tremendous liberal support. It was very bipartisan.
Very bipartisan. Now, the law he's referring to takes people at the end of the road of our system, after arrest, detention, trial, conviction, incarceration, and shortens some of their sentences for nonviolent offenses. What about fixes at the beginning of the road into the system? People who are forced into it through profiling or excessive force or interactions where the police may be the ones committing a crime. What about starting at the root of a system that forces more people, poor people, black people, brown people, into prison than any other democracy in the world? I'm joined now by Georgetown professor Michael Eric Dyson, author of What Truth Sounds Like. I pose that question to you, sir.
Yes, sir, you're absolutely right, as usual.
This is a problem of the root. This is a problem of the deeply entrenched and persistent bias in America and the extraordinary support for a system of criminal injustice to disproportionately poor, brown, and African-American people. To talk about this at the end of the process, where people have rotted in jail or spent a long time there and therefore get out a bit earlier, doesn't speak to the fact that what we saw on that tape is remarkably distressing. It is a distraught family being besieged by people who ostensibly are there to protect and serve. What protection was there? What service was there? This is a family whose 4-year-old daughter happened to pinch a dial or some such, and then at 4 years old, she has no moral compass, no consciousness. She didn't know that she was stealing a dial. So to subject her to the vicious practices of law enforcement at that level was itself distressing enough. But you and I love Sean Carter, and we know that Jay-Z said, bin Laden been happening in Manhattan. Back then, back when the police was Al-Qaeda to black men, right? So we understand that people thought that's hyperbolic, that is exaggerating. This is terror in America, my friend, for African-American, Latino, and poor people and the mentally challenged.
When you say that, you say that, and that line applies, and you say the terror there, we quoted some of the parents talking about that same word,
right,
sir, terror.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll put up on the screen again some of the video. What is important to you that people know? If people watching this at home say, well, the police in my community, I haven't seen them act like that. I haven't seen them treat a parent like that or scream
right.
at people or draw a gun or say, I mean, again, quoting one of these officers, screaming at one of the parents, give me your child. That's certainly not in the traditional police handbook for a stop that doesn't involve a weapon.
No, it's not. And see, two things here. First of all, for those who contend that there are just a few bad apples and the bunch is great, this gives the lie to that. How many videos have to surface? How many examples of the lethal intensity of law enforcement when applied to African-American and Latino people? The police seem to have an asterisk assigned to those people of color. The laws don't apply. Genial deportment and kind and gracious behavior toward them seems to fly out the window. These people were being treated as if they had stolen $1 million right on the spot, that they had beat somebody on the head, that they had somehow killed somebody, and now they're being treated. And let me say this, number two, white criminals who have murdered 6 and 7 and 8 people, they were apprehended without incident. Dylan Roof, who killed 9 people in a church in South Carolina, treated to Burger King on the way to being locked up. So my point is that there is a wide chasm of perception and practice in this country around the issue of race. And when we started the police department, how many more reports do we have to have issued that says that there is a deep and infected culture of policing in this country, and it's about the demonization of black people and brown people, and it's about not seeing them as human. You know what we do? We can't simply say, let's root out the problem at the police level, because they are people who grow up in a culture, an ecology of racial animus toward blackness that then manifests itself when they become police people. But we have to call it out. Thank God for Kim Kardashian and Van Jones and criminal justice reform and bail reform. That's on the latter end.
At the
but
end,
at the beginning, we've got to teach, we've got to root out, and again, you do what I tell you to do. What is the power trip here? What is the fascination? The erotic intensity assigned with dehumanizing blackness seems to be criminal pornography. This is criminal justice pornography. This is police pornography. The kind of fascination with and fetish of dehumanizing blackness before the world. And again, this happens time and again across this country, on video, off video, on tape, off tape. And what we have to do is to challenge ourselves. I ask every white American out there who says, oh my God, this doesn't happen to my kids. Why doesn't it? It doesn't happen to your kids by and large, not that it doesn't, but by and large, because there is not a racial assignment of privilege or personhood or the assignment of a kind of stigma and dehumanization that happens with African American and Latino people. And until we address that, until we have a day when we really come at it at the root level, this kind of thing will happen time and again, and we'll have many more shows and people will die and nothing will change.
It's well put. It's an issue you've worked on and written about and thought about, and we wanted to put it in this context as we hear talk about criminal justice reform. What does that mean,
Right.
and what's being addressed? Professor Dyson, thank you as always.
Thank you, my friend.
Later in the show tonight.